everybody on the last Monday.
This is the last Monday. On midnight this Thursday, the legislative session ends. We welcome everyone to our media briefing and access to the Senate from our public that are watching us over the internet. So thanks for being with us. Text in your questions or however else you want to do that. We have many options. And we'll start with questions from the media.
Can you give us an update on where Utah Cares stands in the Senate right now?
Well, when we get the bill, we'll probably, at this point, there's probably not an option for a committee hearing. So it'll be something that will probably come up on the floor.
You guys going to hear it?
I think we'll probably hear it at this point.
Any predictions on how it will go? Whether the senators will embrace that and say goodbye, Healthy Utah?
My read on it is that it'll probably be about like what's the bill? Senator Christensen's bill.
Oh, the frail, vulnerable.
Yeah, that would be my read. We haven't had any caucus discussion about it, but I think the votes would end up similar to what Senator Christensen's bill was.
Does the outcome of doing something being better than nothing at this point change that conversation at all?
It could. That would, might change the vote some. Again, I don't know. We really haven't had a lot of discussion about that. Have you had any discussion in your
We
caucus?
haven't. And we take a look at it and say, is it really something? I mean, it's passing a bill, but does it really get to what we really need in the state of Utah as far as Medicaid expansion?
The other part of that is that there is still time for some compromise, and we're hoping that there would be at least some openness to the House and the governor's office for all of us to get together, and so keeping the whole issue alive, I think, has some merit.
So are those scheduled, those discussions? I mean, have
No.
you meetings set up to do that?
No, I don't think that there would be much discussion until there was a conference committee. That would be the means of discussion to the bill or to the whole issue in general.
That would
Do
likely.
you see any different than that, Senator Shoes, that one? Process, I can address the process, but
It's making sure we have the money to be able to fund whatever comes down the pike, because that's not in the appropriations that executive appropriations is approved already.
no, because there isn't an agreement on where we're going with Medicaid expansion. That wasn't in the initial budget bills. So it could be in a supplemental budget bill of bills, or some of the other ones we do towards the end of the session.
If I may.
Go ahead.
One of the real problems when we see just the Utah Cares come over, and when we've been dealing in the Senate with the Healthy Utah Bill 164, and we see the stark contrast in terms of both the financing and the coverage and those advantages, it's hard to just embrace that particular bill. We made a presentation to the House we thought was very fair, and they've chosen to come this route. If anything comes forth, at least in my limited opinion, it would have to be something that would be a compromise, that would look at the best parts of both bills. I think to accept Utah Cares in and of itself without some sort of compromise or further adjustment wouldn't be the best step at this point. But again, I'd be willing to talk with both the bill sponsor and House leadership along with the Senate.
But you have really about 3 days left to get that done. Do you think that this is going to ultimately reach a compromise? Or do you think you're going to have to go into special session? Is this going to exceed the session?
Special session is always an option, interim study is always an option, but faced with that specter of passing something that could become policy long-term versus giving it some more months to talk about, I'd probably say let's take a few months more to talk about it. As much as I dislike the option of not providing our vulnerable population with some care.
So you're willing to just say, don't pass Utah Cares, hold out, and let's keep talking?
If that's my only choice,
Which it appears it is right now.
I think we still have an opportunity, as you point out correctly, we still have a few more days to look at this.
Yeah, and I think that we got to let that work out, and faced with all the options and coming to a conference committee, if that ends up being the case, maybe we'll have some grand compromise. Let's continue to be optimistic about that.
So
It's not over till midnight.
Senator Shizella,
Thursday.
what would a compromise, I mean, can you blend the two bills other than doing one and then doing the other? You know, is there any other way to blend them?
Well, there's a lot of ways to blend them. What would be my opinion of the best compromise, just like I've described before, begin with Healthy Utah for 2 years. A very well-defined, thought-out plan that addresses the coverage gap. Then with the transition into Representative Dunnigan's bill or the Utah Cares Plan as a transition. That would be a great model for a compromise. I think we get the support from the Senate, from the executive branch, and hopefully from a very reasonable House.
What about the governor on that? Have you talked to him about that possibility? Is that something he's willing to compromise on?
We'd have to, when we finally see the exact language, we would present that to the governor. But it embraces the best. It gives the Healthy Utah for the next 2 years. And we all know the uncertainty coming up with the big presidential election in 2 years. We know that CMS could be changed, things could be different. But we have some certainty, at least for the next 2 years, in knowing what we could do. And we also have certainty in what challenges we have if we do nothing. And let's not forget, folks, that there's some real patients here involved and real uninsured people. It's not just a fiscal decision.
Do you have any plans to maybe hijack the bill and substitute Healthy Utah in whatever they send over?
In this atmosphere, I hate to use the word hijack in a positive sense.
You kind of love that word, don't you?
Substitute. How about that? Why don't
Yeah.
you use that word?
I think if we had to do a friendly substitution, it's something we could talk with the House sponsor about and also with leadership. I'm not going to promise that one way or the other, but I think that's one of the chips on the table.
How about Representative Dunnigan's proposal that instead you do Utah Cares first and then Healthy Utah? He just wants to swap what you're talking about.
And with great respect, I would reply to you and to the good representative, that would not be my first choice.
Is there room for a compromise outside of doing the 2 years transition? Like, can you merge the two plans together for more of a long-term sustainable plan?
Well, I think that would be the idea if we did the Healthy Utah, there you go, the Healthy Utah for 2 years, and then did the transition together as a compromise. I think that would be the best merger of the two, if I were to say that would be the way to go forth. And it would give a sustainable, ongoing plan.
But it's going to be more costly.
Yeah, it would cost more money to do Utah Cares and then Healthy Utah if, and I'm not sure that would pass the House because they don't want any long-term program that's beyond. So if we're taking Utah Cares and transitioning to Healthy Utah in 2 years, that I don't understand that argument because that, you know, why don't you just do Healthy Utah right from the start because that's money than Utah Cares. So if we go Healthy Utah first, 25 million instead of 77 million in the next 2 years, and then transition, and if it's there in statute that you just transition to that program, then we have some more predictability, which is one of the arguments the House is presenting on Healthy Utah. And quite frankly, you know, we don't know what the outcomes are going to be, and we're concerned about sustainability, so that seems like a great compromise, at least to me, and I think most of the Senate will probably look at it that way also.
Utah Cares also has a lot of changes that need to be made on the federal level as well.
Yeah, there's waivers and
There's waivers that we have to go after, and there's also the cost of coming up with that 70-30 match versus what the match would be under Healthy Utah going forward.
yeah, and that's the beauty of the first 2 years going with Healthy Utah.
So what?
But let's just, I mean, I think that we're just very optimistic. We're still in the game, and we hope that the House is still in the game, and we'll just continue to move this through the process, and we'll address a lot of these questions are unknown that we're talking about today, and we will address those questions as as the picture becomes clearer to us as this process moves along in the next 3 days, Ben.
At what point in executive appropriations will the debate be had about whether they want to spend 77 million over 2 years or 25 million over 2 years?
When it
At what
looks
point
like
is
one
that
of the
hit?
bills will pass or a combination of them, then we'll have that discussion.
Senator Mattson, can we ask you about your bill? You're stepping into the hot seat here.
Please.
There she is out, get the work.
Is your bill going to come up for a vote this afternoon?
That's the hope, yes.
Do you plan to bring it up? Or?
Yeah. As soon as we get text, we've been working on the fourth substitute over the weekend, and I was hoping to get that done and I was hoping to uncircle and then substitute it, circle it back this morning. It just didn't get back from drafting, so we'll have to do all that this afternoon. Probably just, again, I circulated the bill. We've only made a couple of minor changes, nothing substantive, since it was circulated to all of my colleagues over the weekend, so I think we'll be ready to go this afternoon.
Does any of the delay have to do with making sure and rounding up votes so that you have the votes?
Actually, I think the delay has probably got me another vote or two in the process. Just having a chance to talk to folks that hadn't really digested it all before. So I'm hoping I'll actually pick up a vote or two.
How do you think the vote is going to go this afternoon? Have you counted?
Sure, we're counting all the time. I'm very positive.
Similar to second reading, or you think you've gained?
Yeah,
you say
like I
you've
said,
gained since
I
then?
think I might actually pick up a vote or two for the wait. Not my choice to wait, but you have some rather zealous people that are opposed to this, and to an extent their tactics have been successful.
How do you think it's going to fare in the House?
That's a great question.
I mean, assuming you get
that,
through there.
Yeah, I mean, we've got very little time. So time-wise, I'm just, we'll do the best we can. I don't pretend to have as hard a count over in the House. Anecdotally, I have a lot of folks that have come to me on their own initiative and expressed support. It's also come back to me that, again, there's some rather zealous folks over there that are trying in every way they can to keep that discussion from happening.
Is this something that, are you looking long term, that it may not be heard in the 3 days and that?
Well, I mean, I'm not in denial. I realize the clock ticks and we have a limited time.
But
do everything we can.
Are you going to
I'm not.
bring it back next year?
Well, I'll keep at it as long as I'm here.
Any other questions
Does the
on?
fourth substitute still have the legal advice that it wouldn't pass constitutional muster, or are you?
No, I think we share that same concern with all the other 23 states that have done this. That there's an issue of conflicting federal and state law. So nothing would change.
Did Representative Farrar's bill last year have a constitutional
Sure.
amendment?
Yep.
What are some of the big, or is there any significant changes between the substitutes? You keep modifying,
Yeah, we've probably the most significant change would be now we are requiring additional documentation for the individuals that have the card and have gone to a dispensary and obtained their medicine. If they're out and about outside their home, they have to carry the card and they have to carry the medicine and the packaging from the pharmacy. We've imported actually a substantial bit of language now from the Pharmacy Practice Act, so we have language about unprofessional conduct, about discipline and so forth that we imported at the suggestion of the Department of Commerce. So that's one change. The other significant change, and I acknowledge that this did not happen as quickly as I would have liked. I assigned two of my priorities before the session even started, and it was slow in coming out, and I really appreciate President Niederhauser's help in getting it out. That said, we just didn't have as much time as I would have liked to work through some of the aspects. So what we've done in the fourth substitute is we've built the time that we didn't. It was 4 weeks before that first draft came out of my first priority bill in the session. We kind of lost that time, so we're building that back in on the backside. And what we've done is we've allowed extra time and a delayed implementation so that the administrative agencies have plenty of time to collaborate together on creating an RFP, accept the proposals, award the contract, and oversee the development of the program, the database that's so central to this. So after we walked through that and gave them time to make sure all their concerns were addressed, I think that again the administrative agencies were much more amenable, and whether or not the argument that that this has not been vetted is legitimate or not, hopefully we've gone a long ways to taking that away. To the extent it was legitimate or not, we've just hopefully taken that away with the extra time on the backside. So I say those are two of the things that we've at the suggestion of law enforcement, we've required those who have their medicine with them to have a lot of documentation if they're confronted with law enforcement. And then we've also taken care of the process issue with adding additional time and having opportunity for the administrative agencies to catch up. And the target we have is for dispensaries to be open on January 1st of next year. So
Commissioner Valentine indicated that his concern was that there was no safe harbor for any cash transactions for the businesses running the operation. Have you been able to address that?
Yeah, we've tried, and that's the area in which we felt that Utah might be able to be creative and kind of lead and be innovative. And so we've had some ideas that have been floated, and we've tried to incorporate those into the legislation. Again, this is hearsay to me, but apparently the concept was presented at a conference in San Francisco, and they really liked that idea. We've since heard from some other financial institutions here in the western states that they would be able to help us to come up with a solution to that. And thanks to Commissioner Valentine for also for highlighting the need for innovation there. Again, that is a challenge that the other 23 states have not been able to overcome necessarily, and we'd like to maybe do that better in our state.
Who are the players that will be involved with that specifically?
Well, a lot of it comes down to there are 4 agencies now that we've included in the process of developing an RFP, and that's Commerce, Health, the Tax Commission, and Public Safety. And so together they will again collaborate and put together an RFP and look for, again, it's come to my attention that there are various entities that would be able to bring together the elements, including the financial institutions and the processes necessary to overcome this issue. To do it on again with a friendly financial institution, we would avoid cash transactions per se. It would all be done electronically so that there couldn't be seepage of cash and so forth. A bit complex, and I'm again not pretending to be an expert on that. I try to follow along, but I do believe we can innovate and solve that problem in a way that other states haven't.
Would there be just one contractor, one RFP and one contractor? They might have some, but it's just one contractor.
There would be one. There would be one. It would probably be a consortium of folks that would get together to present an RFP, and it would probably, again, this is not spec'd out. I'm going to allow the marketplace to decide how they're going to submit the proposals, but I would imagine you'd need to have a financial institution, you'd need to have some pretty sophisticated programmers and those types of folks, and yeah, let the experts come sit down together and put together a product that the 4 agencies or the 4 departments of government find worthy.
It wouldn't just be the payment card they would be handling. It would be all the inventory receipts itself?
Yes, it requires that monitoring so that all of the information that's gathered from each of the establishments, from seed, from cultivation, processing, testing lab, and dispensary, that is all monitored down to the smallest degree as far as the process, the product moving through that process. And it also tracks the patient going to talk to the physician, filing the application, issuing the card, tracking the money. All of that is tracked in a database real time so that any of the agencies can look in and have eyes on what's happening, know exactly who's got what in the process, growing, processed on the shelf, which patients have fulfilled their recommendations at what time, what lot numbers, and very, very, very detailed tracking to eliminate seepage out beyond where people that aren't supposed to have it can't have it.
What's the current cost of the overall administrating and running the program?
I have numbers and they're in flux. I haven't seen the numbers from the 4th substitute, but the principle, as it has been from the beginning, is that this supports itself. Nobody else in government, no other taxpayer has to subsidize this program, and this program does not subsidize any other function of government. It's self-contained. We will continue to adjust the numbers, and we've given rulemaking authority to Commerce to continue to adjust those numbers so that, again, the people that are using it are covering the costs. We're not looking to anyone else to subsidize it, but we're also not looking to fund the rest of government on these the backs.
There's some startup costs associated with it, aren't there, to get the RFP
There are. In the
out,
first
to get it
couple of
going?
years, again, I've seen the numbers for the first couple substitutes. I think the fourth is going to be substantially different, so I don't want to start throwing numbers out that eventually will be changed. But yeah, there's certainly startup costs. But they also, looking at their analysis, they expect a continued ongoing costs for inspections, investigations, and so forth.
Who's your floor sponsor in the House?
Not really going to reveal that yet.
Why not?
Because not at that point. Don't want that to be the focus right now.
But if it passes today, it goes over there.
Very quickly, yeah.
So when you say
So
you
we'll
want
know
this-
tomorrow.
Maybe.
when you don't want that to be the focus, is it going to be a surprise to us? Is that what you don't want to say now?
Yeah, well, and I don't want to. We've talked to some folks. Those conversations are in the works, and I just don't want anybody to be blindsided. I'd rather know for sure that we have everything squared away before I start talking about that.
Okay, any other questions? Anybody from that are watching us over the internet?
Lots
Oh.
watching, no asking.
Okay.
President Eder, how are you feeling going into the last few days? You got a lot of bills. Are you wiping the board today?
We will wipe the board today.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of, there's a lot of bills out there, a lot of things, a lot of major issues, and so I'm gonna, how do you feel about a lot of these? What are your priorities, I guess? If you had to pick and choose which bills get heard and get voted on and get to the governor.
Well, we have some Senate bills that we're going to prioritize over on the House, and the House is going to prioritize over here. I'm hoping that we get through all the issues with LGBT, religious liberties. I'm hoping that we have some success with 296, and we need to address our motor fuel taxes. I hope we get out of here with a motor fuel tax bill, and then the budget bills, which I'm confident that they'll pass. Those are some of the main issues that we deal with. And of course, we're still optimistic about some kind of Medicaid expansion, compromise, but we're also realistic that, if we don't get out of here, that discussion without a bill, if we get out without a bill, we'll continue to have that discussion. I have to say that I slept about most of the day yesterday, so I've got the energy behind me, and we're ready to tackle the next 3.5 days. Even though we might be on the floor until midnight tonight. So, all right. If there's no other questions, we appreciate everybody for coming here today, and thanks to those who've been watching us over the internet.
Thank you, gentlemen.